Hey everyone, Rover here. Welcome to another video on Epic 7. Now it's been a while since my last build guide. Heck, it's been a while since my last video. Now I do have at least 3 new build guides for you. I'll be putting them up very soon. For those of you who have watched my Epic 7 videos, you'll notice that I always have Chloe as my secretary or leader, however you see it. And yes, she is my favorite character in this game. She's one of the few units that I used when I first started this game. That was when I had no idea what I was doing. I was merely putting together characters I like and just, blitz through the content. It's not really a good idea. I mean, you'll have fun for a couple of days until you get stuck at some point and have to build a more effective team. Chloe is a warrior type ice unit that does burst damage, and she's considered as a boss killer because of her skill set and a unique buff. Chloe is not ideal as a starter unit, but if you already have her, well, you're fucked. Nah, just kidding. She will be slow in early game progression, but it's not in any way difficult. Why is this? Well, although she's crowned as the boss killer, to even get to the boss, you'll have to go through the trash mobs, and Chloe is just too slow for that. She is ideal to have around mid-game progression when you start farming gears for your team. This is because she works really well against Wyvern. However, she does have a big flaw, and this limits her use in some other contents in the game. I'll talk more about that a bit later. So for now, let's have a look at her skills and see where this burst damage is coming from. Chloe's first skill, Heavy Strike, is a single target skill that deals more damage when the target is inflicted with Magic Nail. Now Magic Nail is a unique buff for Chloe that does very similar thing as the Artifact Joker, except everyone gets the effect. The extra damage is proportional to 2% of the enemy max HP. You can think of this as true damage since it ignores defense, just like poison. There's not much going on with this skill. The only time when you would use this is when you are waiting on her other skills to be available. Chloe's second skill, Magic Bolt, is her opening skill. It inflicts Magic Nail for 3 turns. This effect cannot be resisted, so you will always apply Magic Nail to your target. However, you only get this effect once you awaken Chloe 3 times. It also has additional effects where there's a fixed chance to stun the target for 1 turn. It has a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty good since it matches perfectly with Magic Nail's duration. So once it disappears on the target, you can use it again. Considering that Chloe and the target have roughly the same speed. What's very interesting about Magic Nail is that other units aside from Chloe can trigger this effect, making her a good second DPS for your team. Keep in mind that as good as this skill sounds, it does have a few drawbacks. Counters will not proc Magic Nail, and dual attacks will only proc the effect on the first attack. Skills that has multiple hits will also only proc once, which makes sense. I mean, imagine a skill that hits up to 16 times, for example. If this was ever a case, Magic Nail would do 32% of the enemy's max HP. And we are talking about true damage here. The major drawback though is that it can be removed and immunity can stop it. Enemies that can stop debuffs is a big blow to Chloe since her skills rely on Magic Nail. From what we know so far, this is the case with her first skill. Her stun is just a sideline addition, and personally I don't really pay much attention to it. If Chloe blesses you with her stun, that's great. If not, it's not really a big problem. Chloe's third skill, Hyper Strike, is her ultimate nuke skill. It has a chance to stun for 1 turn and deals more damage if the target is inflicted with Magic Nail. It is sitting at a 5-turn cooldown, which is okay I suppose. With a cost of 20 Soulburn, you can increase the damage dealt. This is where the magic happens. With all the setup in place, the damage will be big. You have the base damage from the skill, true damage from Magic Nail, extra damage when the target is inflicted with Magic Nail, and the Soul Burn effect. Yep, as you can see, it's a lot. And I haven't even talked about what happens when you add attack buff and defense down in the mix. If you plan to invest in Chloe's skills and you're not sure where to go first, I highly suggest you max her Hyper Strike straight to +5. Now I usually prioritize turn decrease first, but in Chloe's case, she's all about wiping her target from existence, so you should go all out on damage. You can stop there if you want, the rest is not really that important, but if you're really keen on her, you should max out her S1, but don't touch her S2. The extra damage on her skill enhance does not increase the damage of her Magic Nail, only the initial damage when you apply her debuff. With her skills set in place, let's have a look at gear composition. Chloe as a burst damage unit needs tons of damage. Players who are in their early to mid game progression should gear her with attack and crit set. This is because you want to maximize her damage output, especially her S3. You already have an idea about the scale that she can dish out. Now we want to reinforce that with these two gear sets. When you reach a stage where you are comfortable farming high level gears, I'm talking about stage 10 and 11, this is where you start switching gears. Now there are two ways you can build her. This depends on the hunts that you can do. Destruction crit sets are great and generally have more damage output compared to attack set. Downside to this is that you need high crit chance to make use of the crit damage provided by Destruction set. This is usually the typical gear sets for nukers or DPS. Destruction sets are farmable in Banshee hunts, but requires Earth DPS to farm higher stages. The other gear combination you can use is Rage Crit set. Personally, I think this is the best one for Chloe and what I'm aiming for at the moment, just because it works really well with her kit. Rage set offers increased damage by 30% when attacking a debuff target. Chloe's Magic Nail fulfills this requirement very easily, and the fact that Magic Nail cannot be resisted makes this set even more fitting for her. You can also use Speed Crit set, but this is more of a preference rather than a recommendation. Speed set makes sure that Chloe attacks first to apply her Magic Nail, so the rest of her team benefits from the Joker effects when they attack. This is better used when a majority of your team uses attack skills since, well, attack skills will activate Chloe's Magic Nail. If in some instance you have enough crit chance from substats, you can swap crit set to HP or resist set depending on what you prefer. Talking about substats, this leads us to what kind of substats Chloe needs. To be honest, you have to juggle around depending on the main stats of your gear. This becomes more apparent when reaching endgame. Players who don't have access to high level gears should prioritize attack and crit. Speed and crit damage become secondary, and it's always good to have some survivability stats such as HP. Both attack and crit maximizes her damage output, while speed is there so she can keep up with the boss as well as her team. Always have a main stat of speed on boots, and if you can, get crit chance on amulet, because low to mid level gears don't really give that much stats. Getting the right ones are difficult since the drops are low in hunt stages due to the massive drop pool. You do have the option in the Steel Workshop where you can craft these gears, but still have the problem of getting the right main stat. This will put less burden when collecting the rest of her gears since you have one of the important stats ticked. If you have access to high level gears and have high crit chance, either from substats or crit set, then you can use an amulet with a main stat of crit damage. Just be careful that crit chance can't go beyond 100%, so if you hit that mark, just make sure there's little overflow because those could be put in other stats. A complete Chloe build should have a minimum of 90% or more crit chance, since you want to make sure her attacks crit, especially when she uses her S3. Now that you have an idea on gears, let's have a look at available artifacts that Chloe can use. For 5-star artifact, one that can be used in most situations is Uberius Tooth. It has a 50% chance, up to 100% chance at max, to inflict additional damage if Chloe crits. Additional damage is proportional to 100% of her attack. And no, I'm not talking about her base attack. I'm talking about this attack. This gives her a boost in overall damage, and frankly it's better compared to what's currently available at the moment. Sigurd's Scythe is also good to use. It gives Chloe extra 25% attack and 25% heal up to 50% of the damage dealt when her HP is below 50%. This is pretty good when fighting bosses with AoE skills in their kit, so you can activate this more often. Knowing this, I would avoid putting Chloe in the front just to satisfy the requirements because, well, she's not going to make it. She's a nuker and she's just not good at taking damage. The good thing is, using S3 with this artifact will mostly guarantee a full HP gain with the right build. One or the other is okay depending on what you have. For 4-star artifact, I personally don't use any of them due to the nature of each artifact. El's Fist is definitely a no, but the other two are very situational. El's Fist requires your unit to get frequently attacked, and it's better used for units who are bruisers or have some form of self-sustain built in. This will not work for Chloe since you will be investing mostly in damage and not much in survivability. Hellcutter is okay to use if Chloe's speed is way too low compared to the rest. The only time I would consider this is if either your team uses speed sets, so you can squeeze as much of the artifact's effect, or if you are still in the process of building her. The extra damage and crit provided will definitely help. Strack Gauntlet is used against bosses that throws shit ton of debuffs, or if you ever want to use her in PvP. With the current meta at the moment, Strack Gauntlet is actually a powerful artifact to dodge those ugly debuffs. I mean, the worst thing that can happen to her is when you've done all your setup and she gets stunned or sleep. Yep, all that work for nothing. For 3-star artifacts, I would go for Daydream Joker. It deals 1.5% up to 3% of enemy max HP when attacking. It's an overall good artifact for any DPS units, and it pairs pretty well with Chloe's Magic Nail. Now that's a total of 5% of enemy max HP whenever Chloe attacks. You can also use Ascending Axe and is recommended to use when you are still collecting gears or don't have enough crit chance. This can also reduce the burden in case where you have the gears but still don't have enough crit. Axe gives a total of 30% crit chance at max level, but does require you to attack 3 times. In PvE contents, this is not a problem since you usually have to go through 1 or 2 battles before fighting the boss. Alright, so we have a full picture of gearing and using Chloe. Now where does she fit in? She does hold the title Boss Killer, and that's exactly where she is best at. Her damage spikes up when she uses her S3, while the target is debuffed by Magic Nail. It is highly recommended to pair her with defense breaker units such as Clarissa, Tywin, or Tyranno Guard. If you want to further increase Chloe's S3 damage, you can also add in an attack buffer. The perfect candidate that offers both defense break and attack is Tywin, who also provides other buffs such as crit chance and combat readiness. If you don't have him, there are other available units that can buff attack such as Tamarin, Rose, and Hazel. Also, Diane is really good in terms of buffs, but to many of you, you may not have her. Chloe, in my opinion, transcends in Wyvern hunts. And you can bring her up to stage 11, so she would be a really good investment. With all this set up, I'm talking about defense break, attack buff, and magic nail, she can eat most of the Wyvern's HP, enough to take him down before he gets the chance to put up his shield. Keep in mind that due to the required setup to achieve this result, it is difficult to run her in auto, but not impossible. If you want to run Wyvern using Chloe in auto mode, you need to do some testing and runs, adjusting the speed of your team to make sure the turn order matches the setup required to do a nuke. This is something that you might want to do when you have a pool of decent gears so you can freely switch them in and out. Keep in mind that doing this means that she loses a chunk of damage from her soul burn effect. Chloe can be used in adventure mode, but your runs will be slow due to the fact that her S3 is most likely an overkill to non-boss units, which leaves you to spam her S1 instead. Well, not exactly spam, but just make sure her S3 is up when you reach the boss. It's best to pair her with a DPS that has good AoE clears. This way she will get carried to the part where she's most likely useful in. Chloe in Abyss definitely has some uses. You can use her S3 to shut down annoying mobs alongside the boss in higher floors. But I would avoid using her if she has a disadvantage element or if the boss have immunity or dispel. Now what about Chloe in PvP? Well, I rarely see her in PvP. Probably because she is a bit too slow, since you have to apply Magic Nail first before doing any serious damage. Angelica is used quite a lot, even in lower ladder, and sadly she is enough to stop Chloe from doing anything, especially if Angelica goes before Chloe. Flame Spirit Altar is another good place to use her. Since the boss has a skill that lets him summon mobs, it's best to take him down first and as fast as possible. Now when using Chloe during boss fights, always start with S2 to apply Magic Nail. Not only does this give your whole team a Joker effect, but sets up the rest of her skills to deal more damage. She doesn't necessarily need to be faster than her team, but is good if she is faster than the enemy team. Usually on the first turn, things are being set up such as buffing attack and applying defense break, so you're not really trading blows during this turn. When you get to the second turn, this is where you let everything loose. By this time, Chloe is buffed and the target has defense break. This is the perfect time to use her S3. After that, just spam her S1 until the cooldowns are reset, including your buffer and defense breaker unit. And that's the end of my Chloe build guide. I have seen your comments recommending me which units to do next. I know it might be a bit too late now since it's been a while. However, I've added them in my list as future contents, so you'll see them pretty soon. Thanks for watching, and I hope this gave you enough information on how to use and build her. Cheers!